There's been so many thoughts in my head recently, and honestly, in the last couple months, I've been working nonstop with people individually. I feel like I live from one Zoom session to another one, and I've been really busy. I haven't been really active on Instagram too. I have a lot of thoughts running through my head, and I feel it's important to deliver these messages. I often work with people who feel that they're kind of stuck. They've tried so many things and it doesn't really work for them, or they feel like they've been trying for years and they haven't achieved the result that they wanted. And these people keep looking for new solutions. These people keep looking for new methods that will finally eventually work for them. They usually watch YouTube videos made by people who achieved the level they want to achieve for themselves. So let's talk about this. I'm announcing the topic of this live video as why the methods of polyglots do not work. Maybe I recently started paying attention to that, but I noticed that a lot of polyglots appeared on YouTube just recently in the last couple of years, and they started teaching people how to learn a language. Maybe that's become a theme. Maybe this videos really get a lot of views, but I have a feeling that there are many people who are trying to teach YouTube viewers how to learn a language, and they call themselves polyglots. Why do polyglot methods do not work? I understand the feeling when you can't find the solution to the problem that you have and you want to ask an expert. You go and find an expert. An expert for many language learners is someone who has learned a language or two or three or even more. And people think that the more languages they have learned, the better. The more languages these people speak, the more I can trust them, right? I have watched quite a few videos on YouTube, and even from what I have seen and from the conversations I have had with people in real life, I can tell that some people are real polyglots, which means they speak three or more. I think three is not even a polyglot. Three might be someone who is multilingual, but when you speak more than three languages, you can call yourself a polyglot. And there are people who indeed speak more than three languages fluently, but there are a lot of people who are self-proclaimed polyglots, which means they can say a few phrases in a foreign language, but that doesn't mean that they really are fluent in that language and that they can communicate freely, fluently, and spontaneously, and that their language skills are superb. It doesn't mean that at all. So I understand why people look up to them. I understand why people are seeking advice from polyglots. But it's very important to be real with yourself. I would ask myself this question first. Who are these people? Who are these people? Are you really sure that they speak all these languages? For example, I watched a video of a guy who was just throwing phrases in French, in German, in Russian, in English, in Japanese. And as soon as he started throwing phrases in Russian, which is my first language, I can clearly tell that he's not fluent in Russian. Yes, he knows a few phrases, but he is not fluent. And, I can also learn a few phrases in Italian. I can learn a few phrases in French, and I can just, throw them around, trying to impress people, but that's not really that impressive. So who are these people? Question number one. And I also saw a video of a teenage girl who claims she speaks 5 languages, but then she really introduced herself and told her story in each language. And she told a story of how she started learning the language and where she's at right now and why she chose to speak this language. And because I listened to her story in German, in English, in Spanish, in Russian, and she is really fluent. She doesn't speak some languages as good as the other languages. Still, I do see that she is fluent in these 4 or 5 languages. That is true. So first of all, ask yourself, who are these people? Are they real polyglots, or are they self-proclaimed polyglots? Or somebody coined this term recently, they're fake polyglots. So if you can't check, I wouldn't invest so much time in trusting the information that you can't really check, right? And a lot of people fall into this trap, unfortunately, because when you are not an expert, you're looking for one. And then when you think you have found one, you believe everything they say. This is question number one. Now, how fluent does a person needs to be so that you start trusting them and so that you can start taking their advice on learning your language? We have to also understand, my advice would be try to understand for yourself what fluent means to you. For example, in my world, I'm not talking about conversational fluency when I speak about being fluent. I do not mean B1 fluency. I mean real fluency. Real fluency to me means that I can write in the target language. I can write copy that native speakers will understand. I can speak spontaneously about pretty much anything with native speakers and they will not struggle understanding me. I can listen to conversations. I can, my listening comprehension skills are very good. I can watch movies in the target language. I can listen to conversations. I can jump in a conversation if I feel that that's a good moment to jump in and support the conversation. Well, first of all, it means that I hear everything that people are saying, and it means that I understand everything, and I can react quite fast, to be honest. So I'm talking about, like in my case, when I use the term native-like fluency, I mean that you are fluent just like a native speaker. I'm not saying that you will become a native speaker because it's impossible. You need to be born in that country where, let's say if we're speaking about English today, you need to be born in an English-speaking country to be a native speaker. So when people promise you that you will become a native speaker, you will speak like a native speaker, it's impossible because you need to be born in that country. You need to be exposed to that culture from birth. Okay, but it's a very feasible task to achieve native-like fluency, which means you're fluent and your language skills remind the language skills of a native speaker. People do not have a problem understanding you or your accent. You can communicate in writing. You can communicate when you speak. You can communicate your ideas very clearly. You understand what people tell you and you can read information, no problem, just like you do it in your first language, okay? That's what I call fluency. Conversational fluency doesn't count here. So if people are at this level of B1 fluency, I would not take their language learning advice. Absolutely not. That's it. So who are these people and how fluent are they really? And what fluency means to them? I would first ask these questions. And then, I have watched quite a few videos where polyglots give advice to language learners on how to master the target language. And what I notice is that these people are obsessed with language learning. It's their only hobby in life, or is their primary hobby in life, but they are obsessed. They spend every minute of their free time learning that language or learning a new language or doing grammar drills or memorizing words or writing down lists of words or exposing themselves to some, conversations or movies, whatever. But they are obsessed, which tells me they spend quite a lot of time learning the target language. And most people who want to speak English decently do not have that time. They simply do not have that time, and they're not ready to commit to spending so much time daily to improve their English skills. It's very simple. This is why their methods will probably not work for someone who works 9 to 5, or even like right now we all work remotely, to someone who has a full-time job. It will probably not work for someone who has a family and has kids. It will probably not work for someone who has a full-time job, family, kids, and a few hobbies of their own, and they like to be outdoors, because they have other things to do in life. It's very simple. And these people, in most of their free time, they spend learning a language, or maybe all of their free time goes into learning a new language. This is why if you simply analyze the amount of time and effort that polyglots invest in learning a language, you will understand that it's not like you're not ready to commit that much time into learning a language. But I'm not saying that we can't learn anything from them. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that people want to learn from polyglots, but they fail simply because they cannot implement their advice, simply because they have other things to do and they do not have the time that polyglots say you need to have in order to master a foreign language. For example, I was listening just today to a talk where one polyglot suggests that you need to speak the target language from day one, which means you need to go to the country where people speak that language, get out the door, go in the streets of that country and start talking to people from day one, even if you don't understand a thing. And as you start receiving feedback from people, this is how you will be learning a language. This is how you will be learning vocabulary. And you have to do it consistently every day until you reach a level where you feel like, oh, people can understand me now. Oh, I understand people. But tell me, who has time for that? Who today, let's say, can go to the United Kingdom, go into the streets and spend all their day walking in the streets of London and talking to people, trying to improve their English skills? Who has time for that? Nobody. Seriously. I would say the time they have to learn a language, these people who say they're polyglots or who are real polyglots, it's a luxury for most people. And most people do not do it for fun. Most people need to speak better English, or they need to improve their listening comprehension skills, or they need to write better in English because they need to solve real problems, or because they need to deal with real life situations at work where they need to mitigate a conflict, where they need to explain to their boss that they're worth a promotion. They're worth being considered for a promotion this year, or because they want to close an international deal, or because they want to make friends with someone at work, I don't know, or maybe because they're getting ready for an interview, or maybe because they want to learn to finally introduce themselves, or maybe because there is an important presentation that's coming up and they need to speak for 10 minutes during that presentation on behalf of their company. Most people have very realistic, down-to-earth tasks that they need to solve in the English language. And English is not their primary hobby. It's not what they want to be doing all day long, and they're not ready to travel to the UK or to the US and just walk, around trying to speak to people. That's just not realistic. Another approach that I also heard today from a native speaker was that you have to read and listen massively before you start speaking. So you watch a lot of movies, probably you watch a lot of videos, you listen to a lot of podcasts, you accumulate all that information, and then you start speaking. That probably works for that person. Like, I have not seen in my 15 years of practice that would work for someone who doesn't speak a word of English. That's just, I haven't really seen that personally. This is why I also don't see how that can work realistically, some people have a method where you have to work with flashcards. What I'm driving at here, hear me out. Every polyglot, if you listen to them, they offer their own method of learning a language. Everybody's method differs slightly. And on the one hand, you can get very frustrated because where is this universal method that will work for everyone, and how can I learn something from this video so that I can improve my language skills? But on the other hand, if you think about it, if you really analyze all their experience, and there are not so many people, again, because not everybody is ready to invest so much time in learning another foreign language. Absolutely not. So if you count the number of polyglots we have, there are very few people in the world. Very few. This is why, again, I would argue if it's worth learning from people who have nothing else to do but to learn a language. I don't mean to be insulting. I don't mean to offend anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. And if this is somebody's hobby, that's great. That's fantastic. If I like to paint, I can spend all my weekend just painting, and I do not care about anything else. But I know that for most people, English feels rather like a job they need to do. It doesn't feel like a hobby. English feels like it's a skill they need to master. It doesn't feel like a hobby, just like exercise. Exercise doesn't feel like hobby for most people, you know. Exercise feels like something they have to do in order to keep fit, in order to be in shape, in order to feel better, in order to be healthy. But it's something they need to do. When you speak English fluently, when you achieve native-like fluency, it also has many, many benefits. You know, you can get a promotion, you become better at sales, you simply become more confident, you improve your inner state and you radiate that confidence, and you can communicate with all sorts of people, you can deliver beautiful presentations. It has all sorts of benefits, right? And your income might increase, but it doesn't feel like a hobby. It still feels like a job you need to do, right? You need to work hard. This is how most people feel it. You need to work to improve that skill. It doesn't feel like it's a hobby. So on the one hand, every polyglot has their individual method of learning a language. But on the other hand, you know, once I've analyzed what they say about their language learning experience, what I see, I saw this very clearly. None of these people learned English the traditional way. None of them learned it at school. And, you know, I should even mention that many of these people failed at school. They had really poor grades at school when they were school kids. And once they turned 18, 19, 21, 24, they picked up language learning again and they succeeded. So most of these people do not learn a language the traditional way. One, and two, all of them, absolutely all of them, teach themselves how to learn. Almost every polyglot who's trying to make money online today is selling their method of learning a language. And they all claim that this method will help people to learn a language. On the one hand, I understand them because this method has worked for them. On the other hand, I do not understand them because this method has worked for them only. There's no guarantee it will work for someone else. All right. But it's important that they were able to understand the way they need to learn. They were able to understand their individual parameters. They were able to understand how their memory works, how they perceive information, you know, and they developed a method and a routine that works for them, that helps them achieve the results. But I believe it's wrong to try to push this routine to everybody else out there because everyone is so different. Someone is more visual, somebody's audio channels are better developed. Somebody doesn't have that amazing memory and cannot memorize 500 words on flashcards in one day, you know? And some people just do not need it. We all have probably the same goal. We want to achieve native-like fluency. We simply want to speak English better, but not everybody has the time, you know, available to invest in memorizing 500 flashcards or watching 3 hours of YouTube videos in your target language every day, or learning about this new unique methodology that promises to get you to the next level. But what is interesting is that all of them were able to teach themselves. If I think about my experience of learning German, for example, as my second foreign language, I learned it through English. It was easier for me to learn German when I moved to Germany because I already spoke English and because I already knew how to learn a foreign language. So it didn't take me long. Although I had spent 5 years at school and 3 years at the university, 8 years in total. I had spent 8 years learning German in my home country before I moved to Germany. And after 8 years of learning German at school and then later at the university, my German was, I would say, what do we even call this level? Almost intermediate, I would say. I would call it this way, almost intermediate. I could understand what people were saying to me in German, and I was often on the phone with my soon-to-become host family when I was back home because they were getting ready to welcome me in Germany. And I could understand what they were telling me, but I realized only later that they were simplifying their language a lot in order to speak with me. But when I arrived in Germany, and when I saw those two kids that I was supposed to take care of, 11, and 13. They did not care, and they were my teachers, to be honest. I spent a year talking to them every day and listening to what they were telling me every day, and this is how I picked up the language very quickly, because they didn't care if I didn't understand. If I didn't understand, they would just roll their eyes and just move on with their life. They didn't care. They would never repeat things for me. But I spent every morning with the kids, and every evening I was in a language school taking German classes. And I needed a year for my German to become very advanced so that I could enter a university and do my master's. A year versus 8 years, I had been following this academic routine for 8 years. And if I think about the results it had brought, they were not impressive, honestly. And then I spent a year learning the language my way, because I already understood what didn't work and what works better for me, not necessarily for everyone else. And within a year, I managed to improve my level substantially, I would say, because I passed the test, the DSH-Prüfen. I got a certificate of DSH, I don't remember, I think it's DSH 3 or 2, what is it? But that's like, I got 95%, and they say we do not give 100% to everyone because, you're all foreigners. Again, they tell me we cannot, say that that your German is 100% good because you're not a native speaker, but we can give you 95%. And that's what I got back then. However, now I'm not practicing my German that often. And of course, I realized that I'm losing that skill. Because if you want to be in shape, you need to exercise every day. It doesn't work this way. So you can be a professional athlete by the age you're 25. You can become a professional athlete by 25. But then if you stop working out for 2 years or even for 5 years, and at the age of 30, you will not have the same level of skill. You cannot call yourself a professional athlete any longer if you stop exercising. I really understood how to learn English better and how to move to the new level of what I call native-like fluency after I taught myself to speak German better. This is how I realized that the strategy I have been applying is quite universal. And the strategy is not that, you have to memorize flashcards, you have to listen first, you have to speak. No, the strategy is that you need to understand how you function and how you learn the best. And I'm doing my best to create the courses in such a way that people learn to learn. I do not explain grammar rules. I do not give you vocabulary. I do not give you topics. I do not suggest the things you're supposed to know. The program is supposed to teach people to understand how they learn the best. People choose their own vocabulary. People choose their own materials they want to practice with. People teach themselves to explain grammar rules to themselves in very simple language. I do not do it for them, because the number one mistake that language learners do, and the number one thing that polyglots do not do, so here, listen to this very carefully. Most language learners, they expect a teacher to come and give them the right answer immediately after they have requested it. And polyglots never do that. Most polyglots did not have a teacher. At least one teacher, right? They learn from many, many people. And they never expect that a teacher will come and give them the right answer. But most language learners, especially if we think about the school environment, they get used to the fact that they have one teacher, and this one teacher knows all the answers, because this one teacher will give them the test at the end of the semester. And their job is to take the test. And if something is not on the test, they will not bother learning it, right? Will this be on the test? Oh, okay, I can skip that topic. But polyglots do not have this habit, and that's something worth, learning, for example, at least for me. So that's really what I wanted to say. What polyglots do well, too, is they practice consistently. But again, because I haven't spoken to them personally, I do not know these people. I really do not know if they're fluent in all the languages. they claim to know or they claim to speak. I can't check this fact. But what I do know from my own experience is that consistent, deliberate practice is key. And for most people who do not have the time to invest in language learning the same way as polyglots do it, who are not obsessed with language learning, most people don't even need to try to apply these strategies because they will not succeed. And the answer why they will not succeed is very simple, because polyglots, when they teach you a language or when they teach you their method, they imply that you will follow their routine, which means you will commit to spending as much time as they did. I also don't want to say that there is a way to learn a language faster, but again, everything is so subjective here and so many parameters are very individual. I don't even know what they're teaching us, right? And if they really speak all these languages, to answer the question if it's worth following any of these routines. You have to try things out for yourself and you have to decide what things work better for you. If you want, as I gave this example earlier, if you want to be in shape, you have to exercise daily, consistently. There is no other way. The same applies to languages. Let's say those people who start learning English, let's say, they're a beginner. And then they start learning English and they improve their language skills. Now they reach a level of pre-intermediate, then intermediate, then upper intermediate. And here's where most people stop. Some people stop even earlier. They get a certificate from a language school that says their English is now intermediate, and they stop. They stop going to English lessons and they stop practicing. So they achieved what they wanted, right? Now their English is conversational, is better than it was. Amazing. But they stopped. The same happens to people who buy a gym membership. They want to lose weight. They buy a gym membership. They hire a personal coach. They exercise. They lose weight as much as they wanted to lose, and they stop. They stop paying the coach. They stop going to the gym. And part of the reason is probably people don't feel motivated to go to the gym anymore because they feel, okay, I have accomplished my goal. But another big thing here is that people don't really know what to do in the gym if the coach is not around. That's the biggest problem in our education system. When you're learning anything, people are so used to having someone who will save them if they ate the wrong thing, someone who will help them burn the calories if they didn't do anything for a week, or if they ate a piece of cake, someone who will help them, I don't know, get ready for a presentation in the English language, or someone who will help them write their resume or get ready for a job interview or whatever. They really don't know what to do without a coach. People go to the gym and they don't know how to use all these machines. They don't know how many sets they need to do, what exercises, in what sequence, because the coach would always tell them. Why are they supposed to learn that? It's not their job. And I keep telling you that it's your job. It's only your job to understand how you need to learn and how you practice best so that you achieve the best results for yourself. And so that you don't have to push yourself to achieving this result, so that you can enjoy every minute of practicing. Because if it doesn't bring joy, it's not going to yield amazing results, to be honest. And the same happens with language learners. You know, when people get their language certificate, many people, for example, need at least 7 or 8 in IELTS. Yeah, they need to get certain results from IELTS or TOEFL. Okay, they pass a test and they stop practicing. Of course, they stop getting ready for a test because it makes no sense any longer. But they also stop practicing English because now they don't have a goal. They don't have a very specific goal. They already achieved it. And reason number 2, the same way it works with exercise, is that they really don't know what to do without a language teacher. They're lost. They look at all these English textbooks, they don't know what to do. And that's what is really sad. This is what's really saddening me, that people do not know how to learn and how to organize their learning routine so that it yields meaningful results. So that's it. What does your deliberate practice look like? If we want to stay in shape, we need to continue exercising. If we want to continue improving our English skills, we need to make sure that every day we do something, right? That we practice deliberately. But because most people don't know how they learn best, because most people don't know what they need to do and how they need to learn, they try everything in a very disorganized way. They try this method, oh, it didn't work. I just tried this method for a week, oh, it didn't work. I don't like it, it's boring. And it feels like they're doing something every day. Oh, I will watch a movie today without subtitles. Oh, I will listen to that podcast. I will turn the TV on and it will just play in the background. It feels like they're doing something. Oh, I will read a book in English. But if I ask them, what did you learn from that book? What was the impact of that exercise? What does your practice routine look like? They don't have the answer. They cannot answer a question what they are practicing exactly. They make sure to see the English language every day in some form, right? Be it a podcast or a movie or a line in the book or a blog post. They make sure they see it every day. They communicate with this information every day. But it doesn't mean that they're learning anything, because if there is no learning strategy, you can't really call it deliberate practice. Deliberate practice always means you have a system and you know what you're doing and you practice systematically. It also means that you have a routine, and it also means that you have a schedule, right? So you know that you do some things in the morning, or if you have 20 minutes during the day, oh, I can do this because you've done it many times before and you know that it's going to take approximately 20 minutes. That's very important. Most people don't have that. When they have 20 minutes, oh, I can do English. But what exactly should I do? There's so much to choose from. They can't choose, and they feel frustrated already at this point where they can't choose what they want to do and how to work with all this information. And then the 20 minutes they had, they spend, freaking out pretty much. And this is why it feels like people are doing a lot. They're doing something every day, but it's not really working. This is why the only meaningful strategy for me, let's say, I'm not saying that it's the only right one, but I see that once people get it, they don't really need a language coach. They don't need me any longer. They can do many, many things on their own. It's to understand how you function, how you learn the best, and how to work with feedback. Because if you want to improve, you need to receive feedback from someone who knows better, and from someone who can teach, and from someone who has the experience of helping others get the skill, not just information, because you can get information everywhere today. It's free and it's publicly available. But for someone who can help you get the skill, who has experience of helping people get the skill. How do you learn best? Can you answer this question? And have you listened to advice given by polyglots? And have you implemented any of that advice? And has it worked wonders for you? Let's talk in the comments, because I don't really know how to finish this video other than that it's a very simple formula. You need to invest time, but everybody decides for themselves how much time they can invest and for what purpose. You need to continuously practice if you want to keep the result that you have achieved, and if you want to improve the result that you already have. Because if you stop practicing a skill, you lose it. There is no other way. And you need a system that works for you. And a system, what I mean by that is, English doesn't take up all your day, right? You do other things during the day as well. And you have other areas in life that you also want to develop. A lot depends on your energy level, and a lot depends on how healthy you are. A lot depends on what you want to feel like eating today. A lot depends on what happens at work, right? Or how your kids feel today. All these things matter. Your self-esteem, everything. So a systematic approach is not where you try to squeeze English into your life by all means, or you try to force everyone in your family accept the fact that, okay, I'm practicing, and don't disturb, please. But it has to organically fit in your life so that it doesn't annoy your family, so that you don't feel exhausted, so that you sleep well. Everything at work also works, and you don't feel absolutely tired, and you don't feel like you're not learning anything. And you're building confidence. You're not losing confidence when you're practicing. That's all very important. So the systematic approach is important. But the core of this approach is understanding how you learn and how you function. And in order to do this, you gotta do a lot of very, very simple exercises. Asking yourself, how can I deliberately practice my language skills? Never do a lot. If you want to learn to understand how you function, do a little bit, then ask yourself, how did that feel? Do I like this kind of result? Can I explain to myself what I have just done? Can I explain to myself what I have just learned? Do I like listening to this kind of voice? Do I have the time to watch the video, or would I rather listen to a podcast? What kind of text do I like to read? You have to understand how you function. All the tasks in the courses that I create, for example, but at least I do my best, as I said, to make sure that people learn how they function and they keep track of their progress. We fill out the progress review table, and they can analyze every 2 months or so how well they're doing and where they're going. And to be honest, most of the time I myself am astonished at the results that I see. And my point is that, I would say my approach is that if I want to learn something, I don't want to be working with a coach for a lifetime. I need a coach to help me learn, because I'm going to make a million of mistakes, and I need someone to correct these mistakes and to tell me how exactly I should be doing things and what exactly I'm doing wrong. I need a coach at this point. But then, when I have learned to do these things myself, I want to continue myself. I want to learn to develop the skill without needing to ask a coach to check every step I'm making. And if I exercise, for example, right now I don't have a coach. I don't need someone to tell me how many sets, how many reps, what the sequence of exercises should be. I don't need anyone. I can put together my own workouts. I can put together my own language learning routine. For example, if I cook something, I do not follow the recipe step by step. I always end up creating my own. I need to understand the fundamental basics of how things work. Like, what do you need to do for the dough to rise, right? What ingredients you need to put in there? What do you need to do to make sure that the crust tastes good and feels nice, And then I put together my own recipes. For example, if I paint, I did take some classes, so that I can get the basics, how you really move the brush, what you can do with the brush, what other materials you can work with. But I don't need a teacher or a coach to oversee my every step. The same with language learning. I don't think it's feasible or it's reasonable to be taking English classes twice a week for the rest of your life. And who needs that? And if we talk about native-like fluency, it means that there is no end result. If you aim for native-like fluency, it means you will always see room for improvement. Always. You will never reach a point where you go like, okay, now I know English and there is nothing else for me to learn. It's never going to happen. But it's important that you reach a point where you do not need a coach any longer, and you can continue on your own, because you know how you function, you know how you need to learn, you know what texts you enjoy working with, you know how to organize your language learning routine, and you can continue without a coach. And more importantly, you can teach your kids to do so, and you can pass the skill to people who are close to you, to people you care about. For example, I see that people can pass it to their kids and it works wonders, and kids pick up the language very fast. It's not about selling, my time or my professional skills, or it's not about really selling lessons and how many lessons do I need to take so that I speak fluently. It's not the right question to ask. At least for me, it's all about using the help of a coach to reach a point where I don't need a coach anymore, because I know how things work. But if I need help, if I need advice, I can always talk to the coach and they will always reply. And it's not something you should be paying for, right? Because you already paid enough, and you have been working with this person for quite some time. And if I think about my experience, people I've been learning from, we have become friends with all of them, and I continue updating them about my progress in all the areas where I used to be an absolute beginner. And it's just fun to exchange experience with these people and to talk about different things, just to enjoy conversations. That's what I wanted to say. I asked a bunch of questions just before, maybe 5 minutes ago. If you have a relevant experience of learning from polyglots, or if you have been asking yourself these questions, how should I organize my language learning routine? What can I learn from polyglots, or what has worked for you? Feel free to share in the comments, and we can talk about it if we see more detailed examples. Thanks for watching.